how the left uses data. We're going to get into this a little bit later. Here, I'm pressing the wrong buttons here. I'm sorry. One of the key things that people ask me, and they say, Tyler, but if we just got better candidates, right? Then we could just go back to the old days and we'll just win. I'm from Arizona, folks. The same people who say that were big fans of Martha McSally. And this was before they started investing in Arizona, right? One of the big questions that people have is, if we get better candidates, if we could prevent split voting, none of that's happening. Statistically, we've seen that split ticketing isn't happening across the country. This is a fallacy. Of course, whatever, you're going to have a group that doesn't like a specific candidate for a specific reason, but historically it's always been the same across the board. It hasn't changed very much. And we can see that with the numbers. Voter registration has changed. How has voter registration changed? Way more independents. Who's becoming an independent? In some cases, it's just people who go to the DMV because of motor voter type policies, right? This is a real problem. This is a strategic play by the left to manipulate elections. We know that now. We were asleep at the wheel. No pun intended. Got a few laughs out of that. We got some dads in the room, so. But who else? We have people who are ticked off because the party isn't doing enough. And so they're, right? We have a lot of ultra conservatives who I know that are independents, including Charlie Kirk, right? We have a lot of people who are millennials and younger, right? That have such a poor view of the Republican and Democrat parties that they say, I just don't want to be a part of a party, right? All of these things have contributed to large independent numbers. Why does this matter? Why do you think? Shout it out. This is a conversational 2 days. They're targets. On our side, they definitely don't get targeted, right? How has the left started doing this work? Have you seen it? Our Wisconsinites. Do you remember this? People were losing their minds, right? Wisconsin doesn't have partisan voter registration, as we know, right? Georgia doesn't either, and a few others. So the left has started perfecting these things for a long time because they know, even though you have partisan voter registration like other states, like many of our states, people, when you still call them, they say, I'm an independent, right? That's the same thing, right? Whether we figure it out later or they register as an independent, it basically is the same thing. Does this no good? The left has figured out we've got to identify ways to start identifying these people better. In Arizona, I can tell you this. Remember those 1,200 plus bodies that were out doing door knocking? Once they were able to apply those bodies to the field, they used strategies like what we saw during the Wisconsin Supreme Court race. What were they doing? Two things to identify voters. One, they were saying, help us text your friends and tell them to vote. But they weren't just doing that. They were using tools like Swipe Blue to tell them, tell us is your friend a Republican or a Democrat? That was first, right? Because then once you verified that your friend was a Democrat, then they would call that person. They would show up to their house and chase their ballot. They would help them vote. What do you think they did once that you told them that your friend was a Republican? Right? What would they do? Yeah. That's where we're at now, right? Wow, that escalated quickly, right? But they started by making sure that that person was completely blocked, that no one would accidentally show up to their door and help them vote. Right? This is very basic stuff. The reason why they've done this is because now this empirical data that they have that we don't, quite frankly, on our side is going off of, I can tell you how the RNC does it. You've seen it. They're like, oh, give me a list of likely Republican voters. Well, this guy was an NRA member since 1982. He's got to be a Republican. That's a bad way of doing business, folks. The left has figured that out. Why? Because that NRA member, 1982, he's now a Mark Kelly voter. Right? How would we have ever known that? Well, you can find out real quickly, especially in Wisconsin, especially in Georgia, if multiple friends tell them, oh, this guy's a Democrat. Well, he's actually an independent. He's told everyone he's an independent. But you've just identified him by his policies associated with the party. The second thing that they've done is they text blast 50,000 people at a time in your state, in your home state, asking a cultural question. So I'll use the key that they've used in their own documentation because they were training each other how to do this. The left said, who here remembers Colin Kaepernick? Yeah, boo 49ers, boo. I'm sorry, Central Valley folks. You're probably 49ers fans. Like, just take cover, you know. You're going to have a lot of friends in Vegas, I'm sure, this week. What were they doing? They were sending text blast out, and I apologize for those of you that know this already, but it's good to, again, take this in and think about this. Colin Kaepernick, why does that matter? Well, 8 years ago, when this was a hot topic, they were texting 50,000 people at a time going, hey, do you agree with Colin Kaepernick kneeling on the field? Yes or no? If they said yes, what did they do? Next day, boom. Can I help you vote? If they said no, what did they do? Off the list, do not talk to that person ever again. Not our friend. Did they talk about Donald Trump? Did they talk about Nancy Pelosi? They could have, but they didn't. Why? People are more likely to talk to you about things that aren't political. What relationship have you ever started? We're gonna hear from Tea Party Patriots on relational organizing. What relationship that was actually like deep and real did you ever start by like challenging someone on their politics? It doesn't happen, guys. Normal people in the grocery store don't walk up to people and be like, "Did you vote for Joe Biden?" That's not how it works, right? Well, that might be some of our problem for some of us that are doing that, right? So those listening at home, that doesn't happen here, but those listening at home. Yeah, it's like, oh, hey, our kids are on the same soccer team or whatever, right? That's normal. We're neighbors, and I brought them a bottle of champagne. That is a normal relationship, right? This is the reason why this is so critical. Cultural issues help develop better normal relationships. And so not only could they identify if a person's left or right, but then if they did have to go to the door and they did have to start up a conversation, they could say information they knew that would be together with that. This is the same reason why abortion matters. The abortion debate matters, right? And it drives me crazy when I hear people go on national TV and say, stop talking about abortion. Stop talking about this. And we all could have different opinions on this. I'm going to tell you the reason why the Democrats do it, okay? The Democrats know 1 out of every 3 voters on their side agrees with open, crazy, insane abortion policies. That's their go-to cultural issue if they have nothing else left in the hatch to talk about. We have our own, right? Being gun issues, pro-gun issues, everything else. Those are critical issues. So when people go to the door after they get information about Colin Kaepernick or whatever else, they're knocking on the door right away. They're not waiting a week. They're not waiting 3 days. It's the next day once they figure out this information during early balloting. And they go, hey, you're a low propensity voter. Your friend Charlie told me that you needed help voting. Oh, really? Now they have a friend. Now they know they're good because they agree with them on the Colin Kaepernick issue, whatever it is. Boom. That's a vote. That's a sure D vote that they never would have had before. So we're going to talk today about building competitive tools. We're going to have an entire thing on that and talk about all of that. This is where I'm most excited. This is part of the reason why we built the Chase the Vote Army that we're doing in Arizona, Wisconsin, and Georgia. I hope that you will do it and go back to your home state. We will help you. Our volunteer team will aid you in helping build this, even from a volunteer capacity. Because we have to do the same things. We have to try to squeeze out as many votes as possible to throw a monkey wrench into the left's Moneyball game. This is why we've developed state...
Just a note here. Although Virginia is not a primary state for the Turning Point Action Planning, it is a very important state to people in Virginia. And we now have in the America First Caucus a complete database of all voting Virginians, Democrats, Republicans, nonpartisan, and we also have the access to Early Vote Actions app, which you can run off of a iPhone or a Android phone, and we will be leveraging the data and the app in our all of our campaigns, whether it's the leadership campaign for Virginia RPV or the primary campaigns or the general election. So you'll see more about that, but congratulations to these guys for having done this.
Our state alliances, if you're in your state, you can work with the Turning Point Action Team. We will give you every possible resource that we can, starting with what's in your binders right now. So I want to direct your attention, and I want to give a huge shout out to our data team, Matthew, Ben, and Hannah. Every single one of you in your binder that you'll see that's under there is what we call a Bible for your county. You should have a state version for your state if you're one of the critical states, and for your county. We have methodically broken down the data on where the most low propensity voters exist in your state and mapped out down to the precinct and ward level. So in your binder right now for your specific county exists a breakdown from top to bottom of what we consider super chase precincts. What that means, that we'll use that term somewhat frequently over the next few days, and you'll hear our staff talk about it. What a super chase precinct is a precinct where, through our methodology over 2016 and 2020, 200 or more registered Republican voters or identified Republican voters did not show up in that precinct. Okay? I'm going to repeat that again. A super chase precinct, from our definition, and this is the gospel according to Turning Point Action, according to us, you can disagree. We're providing it to you, and you can take the ball from here. We're happy to help. But we've taken each of those super chase precincts within your county, and we stack ranked them for the precinct that had the most of these voters to the precinct that had the least, with the cutoff at 200. Some of your states, it's down to 100 because your precincts are smaller. What's that? I'm going to go through, I'll say it again. This is 200 or more in most of the states. Some of it's 100 or more. People who just did not turn out in 16 and 20 by precinct and ward level that were likely or registered Republicans. This is what the left has targeted on their side. They are obsessed with what we call low propensity or low information or less likely or disengaged voters. We are calling these disengaged voters. Why? I don't care if they voted in 2022, 2018, any other time. What I know, they didn't vote in 16 and 20, and there's a reason for that. That is scary. That is a scary person who hasn't voted in that. We'll get to Q&A right now. We're going to have Q&A. So save your question. We'll go through this. This is the most critical thing. We're supplying this to you. You might have already done your own data analysis. Great. I hope this is just an extra resource to you, because I've never seen anything like this ever done by any group anywhere in America. We've done this by each county across America. And this is the model. Thank our data team here. We have an incredible data team, by the way. This is the model that we're following. Oh, thank you. I need more. Thank you so much. Give it up from the chairman from Nebraska. Absolute hero. Our goal with this data and organizing this way so that we can more efficiently work together. This is information we're publicly giving you, right? This is research. This isn't secret. Again, it drives me crazy when people are like, well, we can't tell the left what we're targeting. The left already knows where we need to target. They know where they need to target. They know where we need to target. They know. You're going to look at this, you're going to start going through these precincts, and you're probably going, wow, that's a really deep red precinct. Yeah, because it has votes. I realized I got it wrong. I got it wrong the last 2 election cycles. I listened to too many consultants who are out in the space on the airwaves talking. Because they told me, and they said, thank you, Charlotte. They told me, and they said, we've got to win in these where the battle lines are drawn in this pseudo light pink, light blue territory. Wrong. The Democrats don't even do that. The Democrats are focused on deep blue territory because they have hundreds, if not thousands of votes that are just sitting there to be collected. And
So if this were a testable program, this is where the professor would stamp his feet and say, let's listen to that again. Very important point. Every vote counts in a presidential election in a state.